Okay, this is one of my favorite topics. Yeah, I just need to, I'm not tech savvy. Okay, everybody hear me? Okay, I want to start with a story that you may know. A couple is in marriage therapy, and the wife is complaining to the therapist, and she's saying, my husband never tells me that he loves me. And the therapist looks at the husband and said, is that true? Do you never tell your wife that you love her? And he said, yes, it's true. And the therapist says, why not? He said, well, 35 years ago when we got married, I told her I love her, and if anything changes, I'll let her know. Right? Okay, that doesn't exactly work, right? Does it? Okay, maybe that's where I got it from. But, you know, love and marriage and relationships and romance and connection and intimacy are all subjects that somehow capture our hearts. And we're all interested in knowing how it works. So many countless novels and movies and songs have been written about this topic because it really is central to who we are as human beings and how we hope to live our lives. Now, the question is, if marriage and love is such a wonderful institution, then why do over 50 or 60% of all marriages end in divorce? How is it possible that this ecstasy, this joy, this enthusiasm, this gaga-ness, right? It dissipates, and not only that, it sometimes turns so evil and so you know, all wars break out between couples when they're getting divorced, right? So how does that happen that something so joyous and positive and the aspects that bring us together, now we turn around and we're fighting like crazy and we want to end it? How does something like that happen? And then, of course, the question is love eternal or elusive? What's the answer?
It depends.
It depends. Okay, what does it depend on?
How the couples change.
How couples change. Okay, so that means if we change or if we're expecting change, the marriage is not going to work.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
It really change in different ways.
Okay, so is there anything that can be done about that?
Marriage counseling.
Okay. Okay, sometimes it helps. Sometimes it helps. What did you want to say?
Well, I was going to say, the topic of love today, is it only the marital love or love in general?
So it's going to be both.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be both, but the deepest, and this is Judaism's perspective, the deepest, most fulfilling and all-encompassing and enduring love is that between a man and a woman in marriage. And that's actually why, who knows what's the most sacred book in all of Tanakh, in all of Scripture? There's Song of Songs, exactly. Song of Songs is considered to be the holiest of the holy. What does Song of Songs speak about? Love, the romance, right? The romance between a bride and a groom. And we say that this story is a mirror, is a reflection, is a metaphor for the relationship between us and God. So imagine when God wants to give an example of how do I want to relate to you? How do I want to engage in you? How do I want to love you, and how much do I want you to love me? He says, let's use this model, the bride and the groom, when they're so enamored with one another and they're so in love with one another, and all they want to do is be with one another. That's the model, God says, for my relationship with you. So yes, we're going to talk about love in general, but and the name needless love as opposed to needy love, okay, is really what we're going to be focusing on. Go ahead.
Thinking of God's love, which in that case would be eternal. Because it
Exactly.
He can't stop loving us even when we're crazy.
Right.
Like when
But
we're doing the wrong thing.
exactly.
Parent.
But can we humans, can we experience that kind of love? Can we rise to that kind of love? That's the question, right? Sometimes your kids are just driving you crazy. And maybe you do want to sell them, or you do want to give them up for adoption, or you do, right? And you're saying no, but so it depends on who, and it depends on the day, Sometimes it boils down to that, right? I mean, life gets hard, okay? Being honest here, okay? All right. So is love, did anybody else want to say anything or comment? Yes?
Whether he turns out to be a schlemiel or not.
Exactly. You mean the child?
No,
The husband. Oh, okay. In other words, if he turns out to be a schlemiel, then it's, okay, we'll break it up. Yes?
So what I really like, I'm just hearing it now, actually for the first time, is bride and groom, there's an exclusivity to it. So the idea that the relationship with God could be so exclusive and special, and not just you're one of a billion people.
Exactly. And that's why God gets a little irritated when we ignore him, because he's really in it for the relationship with us. And not with us collectively, but with us, each and every one of us, one-on-one. He wants you, and he wants you, and he wants you, and he wants me, and he wants each and every one of us for who we are. Yes. Okay. So we're going to move on, and I hope this works, because I'm not that great with technology. Okay. So we're going to talk about, from the Jewish perspective, love. What is love? Okay, we're going to talk about love. Let's just say we're going to talk about love. We're going to talk about, we're going to talk about falling in love. And we're going to talk about physical intimacy. Okay? So we're going to talk about love, falling in love, and intimacy. Okay? Now, love. How many of you love chocolate? Okay? Now, great. What does it mean that you love chocolate? It tastes delicious. It tastes delicious. So who do you love? The chocolate or ourselves? There was a fisherman who was fishing, okay? And, I've never fished, so I don't know this thrill. But, he feels the hook, pulls up. It's this gorgeous big salmon. And he's like, I love salmon. And the fish is like, oh, great, there'll be some hope for me. He loves salmon, right? The fish is thinking, okay, I'm out of the water, but I'm going to be okay because he loves fish. And he's dragging it home, and he comes home. He's like, wife, look, I brought a fish. I brought a salmon. She's like, oh, wow. I know you love salmon. I love salmon. He's like, oh, great. She loves salmon. He loves it. Wow. I'm in good hands. I'm out of danger. And they put it on the counter, and they take a big knife, and he's like, sliced off the tail, sliced off the head. We'll slice it up. We'll clean. And the salmon's like, wait. You don't love me. You don't love salmon. You love yourself. Right? So sometimes we have a relationship with chocolate or with salmon, or even with our cars or our phones, or you tell me our homes, right? I love this and I love that, and I love frilly dresses, or I love whatever, I love this color here or that color. What does that mean? That means I love the way it makes me feel. Even friends. Oh, these friends, this is the high society. Oh, I love hanging out with them. It's because of me. It's because it's serving me. Not because I love that. I love myself. Chocolate makes me feel good. A good phone makes me feel good. A beautiful house makes me feel good. A good car makes me feel good. Fish might make me feel good. So it's me. I love it because I really love myself, right? Now, is there any other love? Can we love beyond that?
Isn't there a love that you have for your children?
Okay.
Children
Okay, good. Yes, absolutely. Which is not about you. By the way, though, parents have to be very careful because sometimes it is about our kids making us look good or serving us in a certain role. And when they stop, remember we talked about the troublesome kids? Who was it? Was it you? What's your name? I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yemi. So Yemi was talking about, well, the kid, she said, we love our kids always. And I was saying, well, sometimes if they, So for the most part, you're right. It's an intrinsic and inherent love that we love our children or our grandchildren or our good friends. It's not always about the it love. It's when we have things in common, when we truly care about somebody else. So the it love is more of a I love myself, okay? And then there is the I love how it makes me feel. Therefore I love it. Next. Now, I'm going to ask you to take a look at your papers here, okay? Now, this is a text from Genesis. You all know the story, or many of you know the story about Jacob, our patriarch. Our patriarch Jacob, who was the third of the three patriarchs, remember he had a brother he had to run away from. Esau wanted to kill him, and he had to run. And so he ran to his uncle's house, right? He ran to a city called Haran, and he was going to then hopefully marry one of the women in that town. And so when he gets to Haran, right? You know who I'm talking about, right? Everybody's following me. Okay, good. So he comes to Haran, and he comes to the well, and he meets the shepherds, and he says, what's going on here? Do any of you know Laban? He's my uncle. And they're like, yeah, sure. Actually, that's his daughter right there, Rachel. She's coming with her father's flock. Okay, so here's the text. This is Genesis, I believe it's 20, verse 19 or 20. I could get you the exact thing, but I just copied and pasted. So, okay. While he was still talking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob drew near and rolled the rock off the mouth of the well, and he watered the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. So when he saw his cousin coming, he was like, wow, let me help her. So he rolls the rock off and again, this is fraught with meaning, and if you have questions, I'm happy to answer, but I want to just get to the point. And he helps her give water to the sheep, and Jacob kissed Rachel and raised his voice and wept, okay? So he fell in love with her. Love at first sight. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's kinsman and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. Now, it came to pass when Laban heard the report of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran towards him, and he embraced him, and he kissed him, and he brought him into his house. He told Laban all these happenings, and Laban said to him, indeed, you are my bone and my flesh. So he stayed with him a full month. And Laban said to Jacob, because you are my kinsman, should you work for gratis, right? So Jacob is working for Laban and tending to his sheep. And then he says to him, look, you know what, you are my nephew, but doesn't mean I don't have to pay you for your work. You're a pretty good shepherd. So tell me what your wages are. Now Laban had two daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were tender, but Rachel had beautiful features and a beautiful complexion. And Jacob loved Rachel, and he said, I will work for you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. And Laban said, okay, sure, it is better that I give her to you than I should give her to another man. Stay with me. So Jacob worked for Rachel for 7 years. And before I read the end of the sentence, I just want to recap. Basically, Jacob comes to town. He bumps into Rachel. He sees Rachel and the flock. Rachel takes him home. Everybody's happy to see the cousin who came from Canaan. Here, and Laban's like, okay, you're here with us for a month. You're working. Okay, should I give you, how do you want me to pay you? He says, you don't have to pay me anything. I would like your daughter's hand in marriage. And he says, okay, I will give you my daughter Rachel. She'll work for you you'll work for me for 7 years. At the end of 7 years, you'll get Rachel. Now look at the end of the sentence. So Jacob worked for Rachel 7 years, but they appeared to him like a few days because of his love for her. Does that make sense? It's amazing. Okay. He put a lot of work in. Okay. But what do you mean? How is that even true? Did you ever wait for something that you really love? Does it take longer or does it take shorter? Longer. Oh my goodness. I can't wait anymore. 1 day is a year. 1 minute is an hour. I can't wait. So how does that make sense to say that Jacob worked for Rachel for 7 years, but they appeared to him like a few days because of his love for her? Yes, what?
Well, he was so much in love with Rachel that it felt like, the work he was doing, like what it was nothing, just to know that eventually she will be mine.
Okay, so the work was nothing, but the wait, we're focusing here on that it was a few days. How could that be? He was waiting like crazy, right? When you wait for something, you can't wait anymore. It's too long, right? It's just too long. So let me just, okay, so this is the slide. They appeared to him like a few days because of his love for her. All righty. Now, in Hebrew, how do you say the word love? Ahava, exactly. Ahava means love. And in Hebrew, we always have the root that tells you something special. What is the root of the word ahava? It's hav. Does anybody know what the word hav means? No. It's Hebrew. To have in English means to have. But hav, it's actually the opposite. It means to give. To give. The word ahava means love. How do we express true love? When you give. When you give. So what was Jacob? Let me just switch my slide. Okay. Ahava is the you love. I love Rachel, and I'm working for her. And you know what? She was the shepherdess. But because I'm working now, she doesn't have to work. So every single day of those 7 years, I am giving her. I am nurturing her. I'm taking care of her. I'm working for her. Oh man, you're working for your wife and she doesn't do anything? No, I want to give to her. I love her. It's my expression of me taking care of her, of me being generous to her, of me showering her with what I want her to have. So of course they appeared to him as a few days, because what he was giving, he was giving her. He was releasing her of her obligations, and he was giving her the opportunity to not have to do what he was doing. And also he was counting the years to marry her. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the work he was doing, and that every single day he was giving to her. And because he was giving to her, that's what he wanted to do. It was an expression of his love for her. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comment? Okay, so is I will, hava, give. That means, that is love. Ahava, okay. Now, what's the difference between the I, it love or I, you love? What's the difference in how it functions? So, the I, it love, the more you give me, the more I love you. Give me more, give me more, give me more, I love you more, right? Versus, what do you think the I, you love looks like? We just described it with Jacob. The more I give you, the more I love you. Exactly. Okay? The more I give you, the more I love you. So you see how there's chocolate, cars, homes, whatever you fill in the blanks. The more we get it, right? The more you give me, the more I love. But if you don't give me, then I don't love. Whereas, and that's, by the way, parent-child, parent-grandchildren. Grandparents, grandchildren. We are giving, and we're constantly giving. And the more we give, of course, you stay up with a baby for every night for a year, of course you're going to love them, right? What else are you going to do, right? Okay. Now, here's the thing. Every relationship starts out with an I, it. Wow, I love the color of her eyes. Wow, she lights up the room when she walks in. I love her laugh, right? All those things start out as I, it. Right? Initial attraction is that way, okay? But then we need to take the I, it and deepen it to the I, you. Am I being clear, by the way? Are you all following me? Okay. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Please interrupt me if you do. Okay? Okay.
I think another way of saying that is in terms of subject and object.
Exactly.
When you have a subject and an object, it's the kind of relationship where if it's a person, then you're objectifying that person.
Exactly.
That I, thou that Uber talks about is a relationship between one subject and another subject. And
Right.
that kind of connection is not objectifying the other.
100%. 100%. And you see that in romance, in relationships. Whatever I can get out of it, I get out of it, and then nothing.
So at the beginning of it, would you be able to not objectify? Because isn't that a necessary first step?
Yeah, it is.
I think I love you, but I really love the idea of you.
So
what I think you represent.
So that I don't think that's objectifying. That's opening the door to a relationship. You realize that, you know what? I met you in the street. You were so friendly. That really talked to me. Wow, I appreciate that. Okay. So now, I took your number, and now I'll call you, and we'll go out for coffee. I loved being in your company. Okay. So again, depending on how we take it, depending where it goes, it's either you are going to serve me, or I'm going to objectify you, or we're going to have a mutual relationship. Okay. Okay, so this is what we're going to say. I, it, love is natural for the beginning. But I, you love is crucial for enduring, right? It's not gonna work if we love you, if it's transactional. What am I getting from you? What are you getting from me? It has to be, if it's going to be enduring, it has to be, I want to give, I want to give, I want to give. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to talk about an even greater, deeper love. Okay? Let's take a look at text number 2. And this is from the first chapter in Genesis. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and they shall rule over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the heaven and over the animals and over all the earth and over all the creeping things that creep upon the earth. And God, now just listen to me with this sentence because this is going to be a little tricky. And God created man in his image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. What? What did we just say? What did we just say? Okay, number one, God created man in his image. Okay, but then we said, created man singular in his image. And then we said, he created him male and female, he created them. What does that mean? You know what it means? It means that, you're welcome to, do you want to?
That to be complete, you have to have the male, female, the bridegroom.
Okay,
So that's part of the story.
that's part of the story. But did you know?
God is not one gender.
Okay, God is not one gender, exactly. What did you want to? We have characteristics of both. Every human being has male and female characteristics. Males have, are dominated by the male characteristics. Females are dominated by the feminine characteristics, but every person is a conglomerate of different attributes that are male and female. That is correct. Did you want to say something?
Well, I just was going to say that God's image includes male and female.
Okay, good.
We're all made in that image.
Exactly. But what does it mean that did God create him or did God create them? And what is this verse telling us? You know what this verse is telling us? That when God created that first man, Adam, he actually created him. If it was a sculpture, it would be like a man on this side, a woman on this side, back to back. That there was really one, they call it like an androgynous being, one human being that had both, on one side, features of male, on the other side, features of a female. So God created a singular him, Adam, okay, but Adam had two parts to him. And he created him, male, female, he created them. Okay? And let's look at text number 3. God caused a deep sleep to fall upon man, and he slept. And he took one of his sides, this is the first surgery recorded in history, and he closed the flesh in its place. God built the side that he had taken from man into a woman and brought her to man, okay? So this is the story of God created one singular human being, one side male, one side female. Then he did the surgery, divided them. Now there's a woman and there's a man, and God brings the woman to the man. Okay? And then the last verse of this section, therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. Okay? So this is kind of the injunction of marriage. This is kind of what happened long, long ago to Adam and Eve was that God had one, divided them into two, and then he brought Eve to Adam and introduced them. But from that time onward, every man and woman in the spiritual realms is really a unit. There's the man and there's the woman that are part of this one unit. And we'll read the next in the Torah's narrative. Basically, what happens is we are already connected, each of us, to our soulmate before we're born, before we're here in this world. And when God dispatches us, he doesn't put us in the same track. He might send one of us across the sea, who knows where, to Australia, to Israel, to Africa, and the other one, New York City, and somehow by some stroke of divine providence, we end up in the same place and we fall in love and we marry, right? So, and every love story is like that. He was from there, she was from here, had they ever get together, but somehow They were led to each other. And by the way, this also explains the obsession, and I'm calling it an obsession, from when we're very young, when we're like obsessed with the opposite gender, trying to find them, trying to engage in a meaningful relationship, because it's that soul that is restless without its other half. So we spend our lifetime, or the first part of our lifetimes, if we're lucky, looking for that other half. That other, when we call soulmates, it's a real thing. It's the other piece that makes me whole. It's the other part of myself. Right? Anybody have any questions? Do you agree?
How does that take into account divorce and remarriage?
That's a very good question. That is a very, very, very good question, and I want to speak about that.
I want to piggyback on that.
Okay.
In fact, I was about to say something before she did. In
Okay.
that line. Could it be, now I'm not saying what you said is totally like maybe what it is, but could it also be the reason why in Malachi God said, I hate divorce? Right? He makes a statement that he hates divorce. I mean, excuse me, when you read the Old Testament, we call it the Old Testament, when you read it, there are, when he makes a categorical statement about hating something like that, it makes you draw back a little bit and take a double.
Yes. So obviously, I mean, yes, if a statement like that is made, it's pretty serious. And I mean, we all hate divorce, right? I mean, divorce is not pleasant. It's the shattering of dreams. It's this destruction of a relationship. There's a lot of mourning that happens in a divorce because it's the destruction of a dream, really.
It becomes problematic if we use that as an excuse to judge the people who go through a divorce. And I think that's where that line, it's very important to remember that divorce is ugly and it's always unpleasant, you're right, but the people who go through divorce are
Correct.
still.
Correct. And that's what I was going to say, by the way, Annetta, thank you. The end of my sentence was going to be, did you know there's a mitzvah that if you guys need to get divorced, there's a way to do it, right? There's a protocol. So, I mean, the Torah itself sanctions, if you need to get divorced, guys, well, this is how you're going to do it. So we're not, God forbid, berating or being dismissive or dishonoring a person that has to get divorced or has chosen to get divorced. But divorce is not pretty. It's not, and I've never seen a divorce that's positive,
But neither is a broken or bad marriage pretty,
Right,
so,
right,
yeah. And
Right.
sometimes divorce
is the answer.
fixes
Yeah.
something.
And sometimes it's even necessary.
Right, right. I have a beautiful story I want to share with you, but I'm also, how much time do I have? Like, I want to make sure that I don't miss some of the really important things I want to say. What? I've got 20 minutes. Okay. So I want you to look at the bottom of your page over here in the Hebrew letters. And I don't know if all of you read Hebrew, and that's fine, because the pictures are easy enough to depict, to understand. I'm pointing to my word here, okay? This word here says ish, okay? And you know what that means? Man, okay? This one here on the right is isha. And you know what that means? Woman. Now look how similar the word ish and the word isha are, right? So they have in common these two letters, the aleph and the shin. And you know what that spells? That spells aish. Do you know what aish is? Fire. That's the passion. That's the drive. That's the ecstasy. That's right? That's the fire. Now what happens when you have two candles and you put them together? They become one. And that is the model, okay? So now it's not I, you. It's literally those two flames, just like that model of Adam and Eve being one body. That's the model. Two fires coming together, they become one fire. Okay? And that's what happens when a marriage is good, when a marriage is positive, when a marriage is blessed. But here's the trick. If you take the other two letters in the word ish and isha, you have the yud, which is underlined, and you have the hey, which is underlined. And if you put those two together, the yud and the hey, that is what is that? God's name. Exactly. So in order for our marriages to be successful, in order for our marriages to have that fire that is going to burn, and it's going to be both of us together in that one all-consuming flame, we always have to bring in our third partner here, and that is God, and make him a present and force, a positive force in our marriage, so that our marriage can endure and can be sustainable and can grow. Okay. Questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll keep going.
This whole story about the missing soulmate who is somewhere into a motivational speech for our children, who sometimes despair.
I have the same question.
I know.
You know what? God has his plan. That's the truth. God has his plan, and sometimes it's really circuitous, and, that's the way it is. But yeah, you're right.
And I wasn't making that statement like people said to berate people who have had to divorce, because I do agree, especially if a marriage is abusive. You don't want to stay in a dangerous location where it's not good for you.
Right.
And I was just referring to the statement you made about the soulmate. Divorce, if we believed in that concept you shared.
Well,
Then if you finally found your person and now you're away from them, so that's not good. So I was looking at it from that point of view.
well,
that
it
you
could.
always say,
Well, it could be you made them. It wasn't your soulmate.
Exactly.
It could be it wasn't your soulmate.
How do you know? Like, is there any real way to know?
So we're going to talk about a little bit, depending on how much time we have. We'll talk a little more, okay? But I want to tell you a very, very, very heartwarming story about how this can work, or how this works. There was a very well-known mentor and leader in Jerusalem who was aging, as his wife was, and they went to the doctor. She had some problems with her leg, with her knee, and they come to the doctor and they sit down, both of them. He took his wife, he drove her, or he walked with her, or whatever. And they sit down in the doctor's office, and the doctor says, "What seems to be the problem?" And the rabbi says, "My wife's foot is hurting us." Right? Pretty, right? Yeah, it's beautiful, actually. Okay, let's go. Okay, so this is called the single I love, right? Where we become one soul reunited in marriage. Okay, we have the I-it relationship, we have the I-you relationship, and then we have the single I, which includes both of us in this relationship. Okay? So now, the single I relationship is, let's say I'm very bad, I'm very disorganized, okay? I hope nobody else in this room is, but let's say it's me, okay? Very disorganized. Do I want to be reminded? Do I remind myself about that, or do I say, okay, so I'm disorganized, right? Or I certainly don't want my husband telling me, you're disorganized, right? I want him to overlook my flaw, just like I try to cover up my flaw, right? So in a single I relationship, when we are one, we cover for each other, right? We protect each other. Instead of, oh, he's such a schlemiel, I'm like, he's cute. He reminds me of when he was young, right? Just like when he was young, he did that, he's still doing that, right? So in other words, when we are in this relationship, locked into this beautiful relationship where we are one, we want to, just like I cover for myself, just like, so I made a mistake, whatever, right? We want to be able to do that to the other as well. We want to cover, and we also want to support them in their aspirations. We also want to help them meet their goals. We're in it together, literally, right? So support aspirations and overlook faults as our own. No retaliation, okay? Don't get back at him or her. And do all that to restore and enhance the feelings of love, right? Let's say your marriage does get into a rut. Go back. Go back to those things, like you were such a cute schlemiel when you were 25, and now you're 55, but you're still a cute schlemiel, right? Come on, I found that endearing, and now it's annoying. So go back to the endearing, right? Go back to when it was fun, when it was cute, when it was new and interesting. Okay, but the reality is, how do we take a relationship and, like you said, Susie, some things you said, things change, we change. So how do we manage when we get married to set ourselves up for success? Not to say, well, in 5 years we'll change it out, like the boiler in the house or your smartphone. No, you want, when you get married, and this is your soulmate, you want it to be eternal. You want to last forever, right? And I mean, and that's what we say, till death do us part, right? We're in this for the long haul. Okay, so we spoke about love, and falling in love, and physical intimacy. Now, I'm going to take this to the idea of a 3D love. What is 3D? 3D means there's depth, there's breadth, and there's length. Okay? So if we want a marriage to belong, to last, it has to be 3D. It has to have depth. What is depth? What would be depth in a relationship? Well, for example, let's say you like the color of my hair, right? You love the color of my hair. So, but now it's dark. What happens when it gets blonde? When it gets white, right? Or you like the way I dance, but when I'm going to be 95, I'm not going to be able to dance anymore. So those are externalities. Those were maybe the initial attractions, but now, how do we preserve them for the long term? So we have to think, well, you're very kind, you're honest, you're hardworking. So there's the externalities, there's the essential qualities, and all of those are important for the depth of the connection, okay? Then we have the breadth. Okay? The breadth would be the things we have in common. Okay? The broadness of our relationship. It's not just about me and you. It's about we both love Chinese food. Okay, that's an external thing. We both love the warm weather. Okay, good. So we'll go on vacation to the warm places. But what are our thoughts about, let's say, religion or faith? What are our values when it comes to educating, raising a family? What do we believe about education? What values do we have? And let's say you say, oh, you know what? I love him, but I hate his family. Well, is that going to work? Is that going to work? So the depth and the breadth of the relationship is, number one, can you see the whole picture of the beloved? Number two, can you align your life's missions? What do you want out of life? Is your dream to be a millionaire, or is your dream to live simply in the countryside? Right? And these are important things to develop and to think about and to speak about, because these are the things that will, this is the breadth of our relationship, okay? Okay. Okay, so we want our love to be rooted far down as possible. Surface features, essential features. Do we share important interests, activities, friends, volunteering, family? Okay. Length, what are areas of the depth and the breadth will be important in the future. Okay, now, did you know this about the brain? The brain is the most outstanding organ. It works for 24 hours, 365 days, right from birth until you fall in love. That's the problem with falling in love, right? That's the problem, and that's why you got to go slow. You got to put the brakes on, and you have to evaluate, is this going to work in the long term? Does this relationship have the depth and the breadth for the longevity? Okay? Now I'm just going to slide quickly through these. So we have the love, the falling in love, the physical intimacy, and now we're going to, I want to just speak about, I want to tell you a story. This story is told in the Talmud. There was once a couple who were married. And they were married for many, many years. They were very, very much in love. They were very good to each other. They were a great team and really respected and honored each other. And they were not blessed with children. And this was a very, very difficult thing for them. And Jewish law mandates that if a couple, for whatever reason, cannot have children together, that is grounds for divorce, okay? Because one of the mitzvot is to be fruitful and multiply. And if this marriage is not producing children, if you want to, you can get divorced on those grounds. So this couple went and visited this great sage, the author of the Zohar, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And they consulted with him. They said, look, you know what? We're married for 10 years. We are great friends. We love each other. We care about each other. But we're saddened that we don't have any children. So we think we need to get divorced. What do you think, Rabbi? So he said, yeah, I think you guys should get divorced. He said, but I'll tell you something. What kind of a wedding did you have? He said, oh, we had a big, beautiful wedding. We invited everybody in Jerusalem. And there was lots of food and singing and dancing way into the middle of the night. So the rabbi said, you know what? You came into this marriage with a joyous celebration. I want you to exit from the marriage with a joyous celebration. So why don't you call the caterer, call the musicians, get a venue, make a big party, and you know, and then we'll execute the divorce. Okay, so they have this big party, and everybody is, instead of congratulating them, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, it's like, we're really sorry that this is ending, we're sorry. Anyway, earlier, before the party got into the full swing, the husband said to his wife, because you know I love you so much, and because I really don't want to get divorced, I want you, at the end of the party, to take one thing from this house, your favorite treasure that you want from this house, as a keepsake, so that you will always remember that we did not dissolve this marriage because we didn't care for each other, but it just was not sustainable. Okay, fine. She's gonna pick something. Pick something. Pick your favorite thing. Anyway, the evening ends, and the man is sitting with his friends, and they're drinking, and he gets a little drunk, and he falls asleep. Meanwhile, the former wife, or the wife, tells her father's servants, I want you to carry him to my house. So, carry him to the house. He wakes up in the morning. He's like, what's going on here? Where am I? So he said, how did I get here? He said, oh, well, my father's servants carried you here. said, why? He said, well, you told me to take the thing that I treasured most in this house. There's nothing that I treasure more or that I even treasure other than you. So they went back to the rabbi and they said, Rabbi, we're having a hard time with this. We don't really want to get divorced. We care too deeply about each other. And he said to them, I want to give you my blessing that you should be blessed with offspring, because the respect and the connection and the love that you are exhibiting, it's clear that God is a partner in your marriage. And if God is a partner in your marriage, then anything is possible. And they went off happily ever after. They were blessed with children. And that's the story that was recorded unto eternity. So again, is divorce a bad thing? No, sometimes it's necessary. But here, they just didn't want to give up on each other. They couldn't give up on each other. And their respect was so deep and so enduring and so loving that God was forced to make a miracle for them. Okay, comments or questions? There's one more important thing I want to talk about. Everything you love gets old, right? Right? In fact, there's an expression, tanug tmidi eino tanug. A constant pleasure is not a pleasure. It's not pleasure, right? Oh, my husband always tells me this. He spent 2 years in Caracas, Venezuela. They don't, you know what? Everybody, the weather is so beautiful. They never look forward to anything. They never wait for anything. Everything is just like even keeled. You know, the expression mañana. If not today, mañana, because there's no drive, there's no push, there's no, here we, now we're, is it hot? Is it hot yet? What's going to be in the summer? And then towards the end of the summer, we're back to school in the autumn, and anything that is changing is valued, and anything that just, even if it's pleasurable, even if it's bountiful, okay, it loses its appeal. It gets old, right? So how do we keep a marriage fresh? So I'm going to share with you, and I guess here's the question. Can intimate passion be maintained in married life? But before we do this, I want to just mention one other thing. I'm going to say a word, and you tell me holy or unholy, or holy or neutral. Let's do it that way. Synagogue, holy. Torah scroll, prayer book, kitchen. Can be holy, good girl, yes. Okay, how can it be holy?
Because what you're doing in there, but you're talking about marriage. Jim and I are going to be married 60 years in a couple months.
Amazing,
And
wow.
Really, you're one when you get married. You kind of move different ways. But let me tell you, by 60 years, you are one again. But you go in, it's like making something that I know Jim will really enjoy for dinner. That makes it holy, sort of.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll just make another pitch, kosher food makes your kitchen holy, right? Saying your blessings, the hamotzi, before you eat bread. That made this room holy. Bedroom, master bedroom. Holy, 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 holy. In fact, unlike other religions, marital intimacy is very, very holy. It's a mitzvah, okay? And the Torah wants that relationship to be strong, to be positive, to be powerful, to be not getting old, okay? So how do we do that? Anything that you can always have gets old. Exactly. Very good. Mikveh benefits. Do you know, how many of you know about how the mikveh provides a framework for the marriage especially, I mean, I'm going to say especially, but let's just say in a couple's younger years, right? Are you familiar with how the mikveh? Okay, so before the wedding, a bride uses the mikveh. It has nothing to do with clean or dirty or despicable and wonderful, and it just has to do with ritually pure, which in English we don't have a good translation for that. But the mikveh is the incident. And by the way, if a community only has a certain amount of funds, you can either build a synagogue or you could build a mikveh. What do you do? Mikveh. If you could buy a Torah scroll or build a mikveh, build a mikveh, okay? And by the way, again, we're not going to have time. We'd already went over our time, so let me just wrap this up, okay? I'm going to say this very quickly. The way marriage works is like this. The bride goes to the wedding, to the mikveh before her wedding, and there's a requisite preparation, etc. Then, in the context of marriage, when a woman begins her menses, the couple cannot be intimate, cannot even touch one another. Okay, and that's why many have separate beds. Okay, now there's about 2 weeks with requisite preparation. So for 2 weeks, every single month, a couple cannot be intimate. No peck on the cheek, no pat on the back, no hug, and if we disagree or we get into a fight, there's no quick fix. We have to have a conversation like adults. And we have to share, and we have to be civil, because we have to get to know each other. And we have to learn ways to communicate that are not limited to the physicality, because we cannot use that modality right now. Okay? Now, it never gets old, because if you're waiting for 2 weeks every month, you cherish the time you have together, and you appreciate the time you have together, and you acknowledge how much you've missed each other. And this trains a couple to learn how to communicate in other ways, to express their love and their appreciation in other ways other than touch. So I'm just going to read this pretty quickly, and then I'm going to open the floor for questions, okay? So there's no monotony, excitement for what's off limits, as we said before, otherwise it gets old. And we look in other places, and right? Mindful control, right? We're able to control ourselves. We don't objectify our wives or our husbands. And the opportunity to exercise non-physical elements. Anyway, that is it in a nutshell. We could talk about this for hours and hours and months and years, but that's it in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions or comments,